Cool. Next thing. Yes. Okay.
What is up? Hello.
Hi. I did not know that split screen was going to hide my head, so let me move it back
I
a
know
little
it's like
bit.
really close. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Before it was good. Okay. That's better. Let me give me like 2 more inches. I don't need everyone to know I'm wearing sweatpants, but okay. I just told
Hey,
them.
Tanner. Oh my gosh, long time no see.
Yeah, right? I think we're going to get a lot of
Family.
people in here.
Wow, Nova people.
Yeah, right? Imagine.
I'm
Dude,
loving this.
I know. I
Yeah.
think there is a spot for people to add questions, so definitely like take advantage because we'll do that at the end.
Amazing.
Um,
Hey, Jack.
Tim, how's it going?
It's pretty good. Good. Pretty good. I'm in Israel right now. I've been here for the last like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
figuring out when I'm coming back, so kind of just in like a limbo state,
Okay.
but
How's
all is good.
that process? Like, are you just taking that day by day?
Yeah, like there's always so much to do. So it's hard to leave, especially when everything's going on and I just want to be here with all my friends and family, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And what can you kind of like, obviously, this isn't like a super specific thing, but what has the day to day been like? Like, how has it kind of changed? And then we'll set the context and, once more people get in here. But I am curious just for my own right, like what the day to days look
It
like.
really depends on the day. Like 2 days ago, I went with a famous Israeli singer and we traveled around to 3 different bases in the South and he performed for all the soldiers, which was amazing. So that was like a full day. We didn't get home until 2 a.m. And then some days it's just working on social media stuff for the organization, um, packing boxes. I'm spending time with a lot of friends that are here, so doing that. It really, I take my days day by day. Honestly, I wake up and I'm like, okay, what needs to get done today? We also have
Yeah.
like a list of volunteer opportunities, so if I have some free time, like I can pop over there and do stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of
Cool.
it's just day by day.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. And just because I know the people that are watching this obviously know you and they've probably been following your journey, a lot of them are not my followers. But for those that are going to hear this on Spotify, can we kind of go there? Take me to what life was like 21 days ago. What were you doing? Like, and then talk to me about how it's changed and what you're currently focused on.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So right before the war started, I currently work for sales at a roofing company. So I was just really working in Dallas, Texas. And then the war broke out. So obviously everything kind of flipped upside down. But a lot of my life was really my plants, my friends, my job, and then just some side businesses I'm working on. So since the war started, kind of all of that has gone out the window.
Mhm.
It's been really hard to focus on anything other than what's been going on, especially because it's like very relevant to the people in my life. And it's like all I see on social media, all I see in the news. Obviously, now I'm in Israel, so I'm surrounded by it all the time.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. And then now where exactly are you now? Or, kind of like where did you go? Can everyone's going to hear you say, oh, I flew to Israel and be like, oh, she's in a war zone. Can you give me the real account of what it's like and where you're at and why, things are the way they are?
yeah,
Kind of, yeah.
absolutely. So when I told everybody I was coming to Israel, people were freaking out. Everyone was like, "Don't come! You're literally going to a war zone." And to be totally honest, the cities really aren't like that. Everybody's. I mean, you still have to live life. Like, there's a whole country of people that still need to go get groceries. Coffee shops are open. Places are starting to open again. Um, People are starting to. I don't want to say get back to their normal life because it's not normal here. It's not. A
Hmm.
lot of places are still closed and there's just an overall sadness in the air. There's a lot of protests happening in the streets, and people screaming to bring the hostages home and all of that. But the cities, they're honestly, I feel safer here than I do in America. To be totally honest, the
Okay.
rockets do come. So like eventually, like every once in a while, like you'll hear sirens, but it happens maybe once or twice a day.
Mhm.
It's not insane. I flew to Tel Aviv. I'm living in Tel Aviv for the
Okay.
meantime. I went to Jerusalem yesterday. I didn't hear a single siren in Jerusalem, but Tel Aviv was getting a bunch of them. So it really just depends on the day. Usually the rockets come between like 1 p.m. and like 7 or 8,
Uh-huh.
and they just
It,
kind of, they'll be random.
and how are you being told to handle that? How do you, like, how have you learned in the past, even to, like, how do you approach a situation like this? I think me personally could not even imagine in my wildest dreams to walk outside and hear that kind of thing. So, and I'm sure that's 99% of the people that are tuning in. So, like, like, give me reality. How do you prep? How do you prepare?
So when a rocket goes off, there's a siren if it's near your area that's supposed to sound, and also you get like notifications on your phone.
Mhm.
So when the siren goes off, you go to a safe room. So if you don't have a safe room, like a bomb shelter in your house or in your building, which most of the buildings in Israel do have, then you go to a stairwell and you just kind of shelter there for a few minutes, and you hear the boom. Like the building will literally shake. You hear like a boom in the sky. But one of the craziest times, oh my gosh, I went for a run on the beach and one of the sirens went off, and I booked it to the closest building I could find and just sheltered in there with everybody. But like when a siren goes off, people on the street, they're like, come in, come in, come in. Like it's normal to run into a random building if you're out on the streets.
Interesting. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's insane though to hear like the boom. I have a couple recordings of it. My first time I actually heard it, I was like, did it land or was that the Iron Dome?
Right.
Like, it's kind of
And it's
surreal.
obviously now like it's happening more than ever. Was this something that would happen in the past? Because I know they were known to like send, I don't know, test, like there's test zones out there, some sort of thing to where like people may have heard it in the past. Is it more just like now it's happening like more consistently, like almost like every day that something like that is happening? Or is it not as consistent as maybe people have it perceived to be?
It depends on where you are in the
Okay.
country. I get notifications like by the Gaza Strip in the South all day, every day. I mean, they get it all the time. In Tel Aviv, it happens maybe once or twice a day. At the beginning of the war, from my understanding, it was happening very, very frequently. But when you're living in Israel, it becomes a part of the norm. Like this is something that they've been dealing with for years and years and years. So it's just kind of like
Gotcha.
something that you deal with at this point.
Okay.
But yeah, the rockets have kind of slowed down in this area at least.
Mhm. And then how far are you from where most of the activity is happening right now?
In Tel Aviv, it's about 2.5 hours, 2 hours from the Gaza Strip. It depends. I've been going on some deliveries to bases and stuff, so I kind of get like closer to it.
Hmm.
But um, yeah, I'm pretty far. We have about a minute and a half to get into a bomb shelter, which doesn't sound like a lot of time. But if you're in the South by Gaza, you have about 10 seconds.
And
I have
why
friends.
why do you have a minute and a half compared to 10 seconds? Because the effects of
How
the
close you are to where the rockets are being sent. So it
gotcha.
takes
Okay.
longer for the rockets to get to this area than they do in the South.
Good. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Obviously. Makes sense.
yeah.
And then what were you saying about your friend?
I have friends that live like in the South, like near Ofakim and all of that, which are some settlements down there.
Hmm.
And they just, they have no time. I mean, if you're sitting here and your bomb shelter's all the way downstairs, you need to get up and book it as fast as you can to get there.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy. There's a video going around on Instagram, which I can share with you if you want later. But a
Uh,
rocket literally landed on a highway as people were driving in the south. Insane.
and yeah, now is the day to day in the South compared to where you're at? Are people just in shelter 24/7? Are they, has everything paused? Like, as far as like day to day life goes? Can you talk to me about that at all?
I so I'm not exactly sure because I don't spend a ton of time in the south.
Right.
People that I know that were living in like these kibbutzim and live in like Ashkelon and all of these cities near Gaza, most of them have left and evacuated. Some people are still there and they're, I guess, living their life. I'm not exactly sure. I can't really imagine how you can because I get the notifications on my phone of the sirens, and so it happens pretty often. But a majority of them have evacuated. Like it's very difficult to find a hotel room in Israel right now because they're housing a lot of people that had to leave their homes.
Gotcha. And they're evacuating to different parts of Israel. They're not leaving the country entirely.
Yeah, I think there are people that are leaving. Sorry, it's super loud out here. I think there are some people that are leaving the country, but honestly, one of the most incredible things about this war is seeing how many Jews have come to Israel and haven't left. Like I
Yeah.
talk to Americans that live here and their parents are like freaking out. They're like, come home, come home, come home. And everyone's like, I don't want to leave. Like this is our community. This is our home. It's you're around people that understand the same thing that you're going through and it's comforting.
Right. So you guys, it's actually bringing you guys together in a way
Oh my
that's,
gosh.
a
I
100%
I've
cool.
never experienced anything like it. If
Yeah.
you
That's a really,
message,
mhm.
sorry, what were you saying?
No, you're good. You can keep going.
I was gonna say if you message on there's like group chats and like Facebook groups that you can like join if you live in Israel or you're coming to Israel. If
Mm.
you message saying I need a place to stay, no joke, within 10 minutes you'll be flooded with messages. I have an empty apartment. You can come stay with me. Like it's insane. It, I'm not gonna say there's a silver lining to this because it's absolutely horrific what's going on. But I've
Mm.
never seen a community come together or a country come together so much in my entire life. It's amazing.
100%. And is there other is it, I mean, obviously you know people that are from the US as well, but like are there other countries where people are coming from them to come, like you said, like support in Israel, or is it do you see mainly the natives that live there and then also the US people that are coming in?
You have all kinds of people that live here. You have people, sorry, she's packing up boxes that are going out to soldiers soon. We're having a couple shipments go.
Okay.
Um, but you have people from all over the world that come to Israel. A lot of South African people here. A lot,
Interesting.
surprisingly. Like you'll walk
Yeah.
around and people tend to be like South African, American, from Europe,
Mm.
all kinds of places. She's
Oh,
from Australia, the
oh,
girl in
cool.
the back packing boxes.
Yeah. No, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm curious about like, okay, so you've been there 2 weeks. I guess a good question to kind of start with, what has been your favorite part so far of being there?
Definitely seeing the community coming together and
Mm.
going to those concerts on the
Mm.
bases. It was amazing. I can't even explain it. It's it's going to forever be imprinted in my mind. Like the smiles that we saw those soldiers have, you have to think about it. Like as soon as the war hit, everybody got called. And if you were on base, you weren't going home. So many of these soldiers, especially the ones that are like really, really south and their families live here, they live in Tel Aviv, it takes 5 or 6 hours to get home. They haven't been home since the war started. And
Gotcha.
so to have like kind of a break from the norm and have people come and we brought them like candy bars or chocolate bars, like protein chocolate bars, and we brought them hats and stuff like that. And just to have like people come visit, I think they really appreciated it. And it was such a fun day.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. And now
It was
tying right
amazing.
into that, like you said, you brought them hats. I remember when you started this movement of sorts, that I'll call it, just to wear it, like it made sense. I think you made a post on LinkedIn, Instagram. I want to talk about that process. When did the idea hit you? Was it, immediately? How did this start to come together? And really, how has it evolved to where we're at now as far as what you guys are doing?
So I'll kind of start from the beginning.
Yeah.
The night before the war, I was at Shabbat dinner and I come home and I go on Instagram and I see a bunch of terrorists like in a car driving, and it was like, oh, there's been an infiltration in Israel, which happens occasionally. So I didn't really think anything of it. So I went to bed, and I wake up the next morning, and I get a text. It's like, do you see what's going on in Israel? And I immediately check, and I just see a bloodbath. Something I've never seen anything like that before. A lot of the pictures have been removed now from social media, but when it was happening, and if you're on Telegram and in the right chats, you're seeing everything. And I was seeing some of the most horrific things, and my brother's here. So I immediately am like freaking out, texting him, like I couldn't get in contact with him. Finally, he sent back an emoji, so I knew that he was like alive. But I was getting videos, tons and tons of videos of like dead Israeli soldiers literally getting their faces kicked in by Hamas. Like it was horrific. I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't speak. Um, for like 2 or 3 days, and I called my friends and I'm like, I need to go to Israel. I have to be there. I need to be there. I need to make sure, like, if God forbid something happens to my brother, I have to be in Israel right now. And I have friends that were like, I called up immediately. One of my friends, I called him. I'm like, is this real? Like, is this? please tell me this is fake news. And he's like, no, I have a cousin that just died. I have another cousin that got kidnapped. Like, this is really happening. And so I felt like I needed to be there with my friends, with my brother, with my country, and help as much as I can. So I thought about it for a couple days. And when the war was first kind of going on, I didn't want to be a burden. I don't speak the language. I couldn't get in contact with my brother. So I didn't really have a place to stay. Everything was kind of just a mess. So after a couple days, my brother finally called and I was like, listen, here's the deal. I want to come to Israel. And he was immediately was like, without skipping a heartbeat, he was like, you can stay in my place. And I was like, okay, amazing. So I went to my job and I said, I'm leaving, basically. I kind of talked to my boss about it a little bit, and obviously there were some hesitations, but I made the decision that if I didn't come, I was going to forever regret it. And I really stand by that decision. So the next day, I booked my flight and immediately started fundraising. I got connected with the girl Gilly, who has completely just killed it in this. She got a group of volunteers together. She personally, like her and her volunteers, have raised over $250,000 for the soldiers, and we're delivering thousands of supplies. It's insane. In like
Wow.
3 weeks, it's amazing.
Wow.
And I got connected with a guy named Kevin in LA, and we just immediately hit the ground fundraising. So within like 5 days, Kevin and I together raised a little over $17,000. Yeah, just from
Nice.
literally just from social media, just from
Yeah,
social media.
nice. That's awesome. That's
Um,
sick. Cool.
and Kevin kind of I took care of a lot of the fundraising. He took care of a lot of the logistics. We discussed like what needed to be ordered and stuff like that. And then I flew out Wednesday night, the Wednesday after the war started. The following week, I flew out to LA. He had ordered everything. We had people that were like sending care packages to their families I was going to take to them. And everything just went to Kevin's house. And then we packed it all up and I flew out the next day.
Super cool.
It
And
was insane.
now, yeah, that's such. I'm glad you went the story route with that, and you didn't just give me some like surface level answer about what the organization was. But that being said, can you talk any bit? Are you working like with a major organization, or is this more of like you guys just came together and you got the resources, and you're kind of just doing it under like nobody? Like, how can people help this? Like you guys specifically, is it just through private like donations, or do you have like a website or something or anything like that?
We do have a website. We just got a website.
Okay,
We're
okay,
not,
gotcha. Cool,
yeah. So
cool.
I'll get you all that information. We're not an organization.
Hmm.
We're not a nonprofit. We're really a group of volunteers that have come together and are just filling the need that we see. And so there's a Google Doc that's going around to all the units. It's kind of gone viral at this point. We have currently in our system that we've seen and inputted 90 orders, but there's over 90 orders, but there's like way more on the back end that we haven't even looked at yet. So we're getting like thousands of requests. And there's some people in the States that are dealing with like the logistics in the States, people that are here, like Leah, that's packing boxes and getting everything shipped and figuring out what needs to go where, which units are pressing, which units can kind of wait. So there's a lot that goes into it. I'm learning a lot, but this is the organization that I'm doing most of my volunteer work with. And really right now what we need is money. Honestly, like we really need money. People have ordered supplies and have shipped supplies, but if it's not specifically what they need, like you can't just order like knee pads. It has to be a specific kind of knee pads. You can't just order watches. It has to be a specific kind of watches. And
Yeah.
so we're really finding that the best way to get the soldiers like the exact supplies that they need is to donate money and then we do the ordering.
No, that makes a lot of sense because people. I mean, I'm glad you said that because I would think that same thing. Like, oh, they'll find a way to use it, right? But like, this is the military we're talking about. Like, you can't
Yeah.
just like send a package and have like so and so come grab it.
No,
Like,
you
it's got to be
can't.
down. They're allowed certain things for certain purposes. So
Yeah,
no,
and
I'm,
it's
I'm
things
really
you
glad
don't
you went into
even
that.
it's things you don't even think about, like headlamps. They can't have any reflective gear on them. Watches have to be a certain kind of watch. Like it's little things that you wouldn't even think about if you didn't know. The knee pads, like they have
Mhm.
to be military grade knee pads. And on top of that, if it's like coming in and they're seeing that they're sending stuff that's not actually relevant to the military. Or, okay, for example, there was somebody that shipped in like 500 bulletproof vests. So the military took it and they tested them and they failed. So that made them, yeah. That so now they're like at customs, they're very strict about what's coming through.
Yeah,
So it's a
makes
whole
sense.
process.
Gotcha. And now I think a good question would be, obviously not everyone's gonna just, be able to have the desire to go to Israel and help out. What could they be doing here in the States and obviously elsewhere to raise more awareness and kind of like, I guess, help you guys out in that sense?
So sharing stuff to fundraise really helps. We're also trying to post as many pictures and videos as we can so that people really know where their money is going to.
Mhm.
I'm working on like making that even more detailed so people see like if they donate $20, okay, this is buying a watch. $50, this is buying a jacket. So people really know that their money is going to soldiers and not a cent is going anywhere else.
Mhm.
But also just on the bigger scale of things, sharing the correct information.
Yes.
There's a lot of misinformation going around right now online. There's a lot of propaganda going around online right now. So I tell all my friends, if you have questions, reach out. I'm happy to have conversations with people about it. But sharing the correct information is the most important thing that we can do right now.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And is there anything I have to be careful with like these questions because obviously, I'm one of those outsiders, right? Like, but I am curious, what do you feel the most confident in talking about that is being perceived or being shown one way and is actually occurring another, or has occurred another, or has occurred another? We can talk about stuff that's already happened as well.
Yeah. That's a good question. There's a lot of information going around and like propaganda going around about like what happened with the hospital in Gaza and the rocket that fell on it and kind of the numbers that are coming out of the casualties. There's no doubt that there have been casualties on the other side. It's horrific, absolutely horrific. Um, but in terms of like that rocket that landed, there's been a lot of evidence that's shown that it wasn't Israel. I mean, the IDF has come out and spoken about it. They've posted proof and stuff like that. So information like that is really important to go straight to the source, I think, and kind of also keep in mind who you're getting your information from. Like, I can't tell people enough. If you're trusting Hamas to give you information about how many civilians are dead in Gaza, probably not a good source of probably not a good source to get your information from.
Yeah.
Like you want to make sure that you're getting it from credible sources. And there's a bunch of journalists that are doing a really good job covering this kind of stuff. So I'll be happy to also share those names. I don't know them off the top of my head, but
Hmm.
stuff
Gotcha.
like that.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I think you hit on a good point. The casualty numbers, because obviously, they're gonna make it seem worse or not as bad. You're talking about a lot of hostages that I know are there, so whatever they can put out to, make those processes go more their way, they're probably gonna do. You could say it from both whatever, areas of it.
I mean,
But yeah, and
at the end of the day, we can't forget that these people came into Israel and brutally, like they didn't just putting a bullet in someone's head is one thing. It's killing.
yeah.
There's no words for that, but they brutally, brutally hurt these people. I mean, the stories that you can't even post on social media because they're so horrific is like you can't even. They're not even human beings. They're below like animals, absolute animals. Anyone that would do that. And there's the number of hostages that are in Gaza right now keeps growing, growing, growing. They don't actually know how many hostages are over there every day
Mhm.
there's more and more and more. They're finding body parts. They just found that girl. I know there's like that viral video of that girl face down in the truck and they were spitting on her and celebrating her death.
Yeah, it's
They just
no,
found her
it's horrendous.
bones.
I can't. It doesn't. There's no sense of the word where it's like innocent people dying is like just a thing. Like it doesn't really. So the fact that just the whole gist of it really,
their
yeah, it takes a toll for sure.
their purpose of doing this was to murder Jews. murder Israelis. And not to mention, it wasn't just them. It wasn't just Israelis and Jews.
Mhm.
They killed an Arab guy too. They killed people that were here from the Philippines. There's a video of them beheading a guy. I think he was from the Philippines, or I'm
Mhm.
not sure. He was somewhere from another
I
country,
think
but he
you're
wasn't
right.
even a
Yeah.
Jew, and he wasn't Israeli. And there's a video of them beheading him, and they celebrated this. Like, that's the
Mhm.
issue. You want to talk about humanity? Israel does not celebrate their deaths. We're not cheering for these people to die. They're
Yeah.
they're showing it and saying, "Look what we did to the Jews. Look what we did to the Jews." They're calling their parents on victims' phones and saying, "Guess how many Jews I killed?"
Yeah.
How can anybody justify those actions? It doesn't make sense. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. It's horrific. And every single drop of blood that has been spilled in this war goes to Hamas. None of
Mhm.
this would have happened if they didn't do that.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Now, where I wanted to go next was really the effect that it's having in other communities. So like also the effect it's having in the US. Like you mentioned earlier, like I feel safer in Israel than I do in the United States. Can you expand on that more? Like
I don't know if
where that
you saw like the what happened in Russia the other day, but there was a plane that landed from Tel Aviv in Russia, and or supposedly from Tel Aviv. It was filled with Jews, and a bunch of Russians basically rushed the airport, and they were trying to like climb on the plane and attack the Jews that were in this plane. I mean, we're, we're in 2023. Like, in what world are we living in right now? It's insane. In America, there was the president of a synagogue in Chicago. She got or Detroit, Chicago, or Detroit. She got stabbed to death. It's like this is like bleeding bleeding into so many different other countries and communities. It's horrific. I have friends in New York, Philly, that feel so unsafe. My friends text me like, hey, when you come back to the States, make sure that you change anything that says Yocheved to Kim, because it's literally dangerous for you to be a Jew right now. There was a girl
yeah.
in New York who took an Uber, and
Uh-huh.
the guy asked her, "Are you Jewish?" And she was so scared to say yes. She said no, and he was like, "Good, because I would have had to kill you if you were." Even if that's a joke.
Yeah.
Let's say he's joking.
Hmm.
In what world is that okay?
100%. And no, it's I know you told me that the other day, and then literally 2 days later, I was talking to another girl, and she had went to Washington D.C. and the same thing happened. Her and her friends got in an Uber, and somebody asked them if they were Jewish, and she just was like didn't answer. Like they just acted like they, you
What are
know.
you supposed to do?
Yeah. And I mean, she's not even, but she was just like, I'm not going to answer that. Why would anyone even ask? That's a good, I mean, I'm glad you shed some light on that. Just because it kind of, I don't want to scare people, but I want people's awareness to not be like, oh, I'm clueless and nothing could ever happen to me. Like, no, that's the bullshit that we're fed every single day to make it seem like everything's okay. And if you've watched any of my content, you know that's just not where I lean.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
no, I mean, that's awesome. I haven't been able to see the chat. Has anyone had any questions so far? I know we're 33 or so minutes in, but looks like mostly fun
I mean,
comments.
it's
Okay.
also like it's unreal to think that in today's society,
Mhm.
Jews are being told like you have to hide your identity. And
Disgusting.
I think it was in France, like homes are being stamped with Jewish stars. Like, it's crazy. The Jewish community is literally at risk right now. Like, we are in harm's way around the world. And so in Israel, I do feel the safest, even in a war zone, even with rockets coming. This is
Hmm.
the safest place to be. I think.
Interesting. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, what do you have going on the rest of today? Do you have anything planned as far as like the weekend goes, as far as what you guys are doing?
I'm hoping my brother's going to be home from base. I'm waiting for him to let me know. He kind of will text me, "Hey, I'm on my way to Tel Aviv." He doesn't really know like when he gets off, so it's always a nice surprise.
Hmm.
And just spending time with friends and seeing people before I leave.
Yeah.
Being
And how many,
house.
has there been any, I guess, I know you mentioned you were visiting a couple friends while you were there, like the other day. Is there any stories or anything that you've like that stand out to you that you kind of want to share as far as people that are living there full time and kind of what their experience has been like?
Yeah. Actually, last night I went out with one of my girlfriends, and she was like, one of the guys that got blew up in Gaza like a day ago. She knows him. He's alive, thank God. He's in the hospital. Um, that's just like shakes you up. I mean, these are people our age that are going in and getting blown up and killed, and it's horrific to think about. But yeah, one of the main reasons that I came, besides my brother, is I have a really good friend who lost his cousin, who's super close to him, a young guy. I think he's 24. And one of his uncles is no, two of his uncles was taken hostage and is currently in Gaza, and they don't know where he is. And to make it even worse, he had to bury so he has like his cousins. He had to bury their entire family, three kids and a husband and wife. They were all murdered.
Mm.
One family, two people hostage, six people dead. You should see, like, when the rockets go off, the anxiety that he's filled with. He's like, my family can't take any more hurt. He was going to go into the army. He was going to go back to reserves because he served back in 2014. And he was like, I can't. I have too many funerals to go to.
Mm. Yeah, that's
It's
that's like that's hard to hear. I mean, I'm glad like it's somebody submitted one that isn't going, but jeez, I can't even. Does he have any sense of why? Was it like, is it wrong place, wrong time? Is it association? Like, and is it some sort of like affiliation? Is it purely just for being Jewish and being in the wrong area? Like, just having like I don't want to call it bad luck, but like, I mean,
in the
my
wrong
God,
place at the wrong time.
why
I
was
mean,
his? Does he have any sense why his family was targeted? I think that's where my question was going.
I don't think anybody was specifically targeted. They weren't like, we're going to go after this person. They were like, we're going to come in and we're going to cause as much pain and hurt as we can, and literally kill as many Jews as we can, and torture as many people as possible. And his family happened to live in the South. His cousin happened to be at the party. And,
Gotcha.
unfortunately, you either, if you didn't make it out alive, you were either tortured and killed or
Mm.
taken hostage. And who knows what's happening to you right now. I mean, it's hard to, there's a sense of like survivor's guilt almost. Like, I hear it from a lot of people that live here, especially from the people that escaped. They feel guilty, like they survived and these people didn't. And it's really hard to go back to reality. Like, it's hard to go back to your life and like everything is normal, because so many of our brothers and sisters are suffering right now. So many people are dead, so many people are getting tortured, or whatever's happening to them in Gaza. It's horrific, and these families have no idea what's going on with their loved ones. I mean, there's a kid named Hirsch. He kind of went viral on Instagram. His arm was blown off and he's in Gaza, and who knows if he's okay. Nobody knows. He needs medical attention. His arm is literally blown off and he was taken hostage.
Mm. Yeah. This is definitely. I mean, it's definitely. I think we have such an interesting generation. I mean, we survived freaking COVID, and then we get hit with like now this. I mean, talk
It's
about
election
like we're
year.
gonna have
It's
some
election year.
right? Like we're gonna have some stories like to tell our kids, which I always think about. I'm like, damn, dude, like this is a wild time, and you don't always remember until you have kind of conversations like this, where like it's very prevalent, and you get a very real account of like things that are happening, affecting so many people. But that's why I'm glad we have platforms like this, raise awareness
Absolutely.
any way that we can. Is there anything we haven't covered or that I didn't dive deep enough on that you kind of want to shed a light on? Because I'm not in a rush. Want to make
No,
sure we
all
get the most out
good.
of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been actually thinking about this for a while, and I kind of talked to my friends about it, but it's nice to have a platform to be able to tell people.
Mhm.
I really think that we need to stop sharing all of the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas stuff that's happening on the internet. We're just giving them a platform to continue the propaganda. And
Mhm.
it's not doing anything positive. It's not helping at all. Videotaping the people that are taking down the posters is giving them a platform. It's it's like those mass shooters that we then say their name and they then become famous. Why are we doing that? We should not be naming these people. We should not be showing these people's faces on the internet. They don't deserve that. They do not deserve that. And I think that we should really just be sharing like all the positives, people coming together, people helping. We should be screaming more than ever, bring these people home. The idea that people want a ceasefire right now is insane. How can there be a ceasefire right now? You can't. There's so many people still over there. You can't have a ceasefire right now, not until we get our hostages home.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so I think it's really important for us to just be sharing as much positive information as we can, uplifting information as we can, and factual information.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I think it can be the greatest tool, or it can be the greatest like cancer, where like again there's going to be the people that just read the surface level stuff and then go and like attack Jewish people for no reason, and then there's going to be people that actually get real accounts and understand like it's got nothing, it's not this isn't like a divided thing, this is like innocent people dying for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
So
And the amount
um
of
yeah.
justification for what happened is sickening, really sickening. Like so many people are justifying the rape and the torture. It's like how can you? How can you put yourself in their shoes? There's a video of a girl literally being pulled away, and they're like, "Oh, she's not a prisoner. She's for rape." Can you imagine? I would be like, "Just kill me at that point." I can't even fathom that.
I
I
know
can't
it's
even fathom that.
and it's like because then like the people that do think there's like a two sides to this, it amazes me because it's like fine, that just really simplifies like if I see anything that's like that way, like I'm just you're sick, like
Yeah.
you're sick, and I just didn't know you were sick, and I was just yeah, that's like it's mind boggling to me. You don't kill innocent people. It's disgusting, and
But I do
but
want to like make something really clear. Palestinian people are different from Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. They do not represent all the Palestinian people. And unfortunately, everybody living in Gaza is just getting the short end of the stick. And it's sad. It's really, really sad. They're trying to leave their homes. Israel is telling them, leave their homes. And Hamas is saying, you're not allowed to. So and you know, on top of that, I feel like this is kind of controversial, but we should really all be on the same side. If you want to free Palestine, you need to free Palestine from Hamas. You need to save them from Hamas. Hamas gets millions and millions and millions of dollars a year, and what do they do with it? They use it for terrorism.
yeah. And they've been more or less prepping this for God knows how long. So yeah, just stacking their money until it was time to go.
Yeah.
But
I mean, when Israel left Gaza, I think it was 2007, 2008, when they left, they left nice communities. And now Gaza looks like an absolute shithole.
nah,
They could have done the same thing that Israel does, which is put money into their communities and build people up. And they don't do that because they don't care about their own people. They
yeah,
care about
no, I
getting
can't.
rid of Jews.
The psychology behind all this is really where like it does like it intrigues me. Maybe it makes sense if I could talk to I wouldn't call them a war psychologist, but maybe there's someone out there that needs to come on this show and try to not make sense of it, but at least just again like kind of make sense of it. Like what causes one person to start thinking like that, which leads to years and years of it, and then like obviously ultimately coming together in like the psychology of war really is where I want to like go. But it's just so interesting. Like why it really can't put two and two together
But
as far as why this is.
I like that point. But, and to that point, you have to think about kind of where this all stems from, right?
Right.
Like they've always kind of been at it. Like they've gone head to head for years. And it's very deep rooted on both sides. There's propaganda. I'm not going to say that there's no propaganda on the Israel side, because there
Hmm.
definitely is. Kids grow up knowing like we live in almost a war zone all the time because we're getting rockets sent over from Gaza and the West Bank and all of that. But on the other side, like those Arab kids or the Palestinian kids are raised to hate Jews from a very young age. There's a great book called The Son of Hamas, and I don't know what his name is, but he does a really good job of kind of diving into it. He was actually the son of one of the founders of Hamas. And when he was younger, he hated Jews and he tried to shoot at a Jewish car one time and they ended up arresting him. And that was the best thing that ever happened to him. He ended up working for the Israeli government as well as Hamas, and he saved hundreds and hundreds of lives. And he says, and this is the best line ever, if they put their hands down, there would be peace. And if Israel put our hands down, there would be a massacre. And he eventually spoke out against it and he left and now he lives in the States and he's very active and speaks a lot about this. And I'll send you the information for that too, because
Yeah.
he's a great resource.
Interesting. Yeah, that sounds perfect. Talk about a follow up. Yeah, like
It's
trying
a
to be.
great book.
You
It's
set
a
the bar
really,
pretty
really good book.
high, but yeah, I might have to. Am I crazy? He's not alive anymore, or
No,
is
he's
he is alive?
alive. He lives in the States.
Okay,
He's a Christian.
okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and he's
Interesting.
super active. I'm sure you've seen, like if I send you a video, you'll be like, "Oh, I've seen him." But I highly
Uh,
recommend it. The Son of Hamas. It is so interesting. I
huh,
canceled all my plans for like 3 days just to sit and read it. And
cool.
if people know me, I don't read books like that like as quickly. But I
Interesting.
read it within like literally 3 days. It was amazing. I recommended it to all my friends. I think one of my friends has my copy right now. I
Gotcha.
highly recommend
Cool.
it. But I'm curious, Jack. Okay, you're on the outside of this. What are you seeing on social media? What are the conversations that you're having, if you're having any?
Mm.
And like,
I mean, so
is
I'll
it relevant?
preface this by saying I know my experience is going to be much different because I'm not Jewish. Like I'm Catholic, but I don't feel it on like the community level to where like, everyone I'm talking to, it's on their mind. Most of the people I talk to, it's one of those things where like if they're paying attention to social media, they see it. But like a lot of my friends, they don't even watch the news. So they're almost so out of the loop and that was honestly where I was. Like I was at a point of like you talked about, like you knew like kind of the first day you kind of said something and then by day two you were like, oh, this is actually a problem. It probably took a week before I totally because I saw everyone posting about it and I just thought it was one of those things that like literally, oh, maybe this happens, like you were on day one, like this happens. I'd seen similar stuff before, so I don't think I was totally diving into it. But then when you started to, I think it was really when you started to, when you announced like you were going out there, I was like, oh shit, because now it kind of did hit close to home, right? It was like, oh, that's a friend going into like a war zone in my head. Like, what are you doing? Like, it literally like all your friends were, right? And then I really started to take a dive into it. And honestly, I'm very disciplined when it comes to just the content I consume. Like, so I've been honestly like I've had more conversations with you about it than I have anyone on social media or listened to anything on TV. So like
Really?
because I was just like, well, she's there, and I follow a few friends who are like, I know they don't like post stuff that's like like that, and that's really been my fill. That's why this conversation was so important because it was important for me, but then it was also like it's just the most real account. I'd rather do this for an hour than scroll for an hour and
Totally.
see 10 different opinions. So that's a recommendation I can make. I mean, if there is like people out there and you feel like you see 10 different opinions all the time, focus on a few people that are getting real accounts of what's going on and mute everyone else. I mean, it's very easy to mute on Instagram. So if that is,
Or unfollow.
hurting your
Feel
mental
free to
health,
hit the
yeah,
unfollow button.
exactly. Like I always tell people, like, like even when it comes to the business content in the podcast, like if it doesn't serve you, you don't have to follow me. It's not gonna hurt my feelings. So but yeah, I mean, like my experience has been totally that of an outsider. Really, just being really careful about who I get my information from. But then ultimately, like, but that's all it took, right? It took like a couple real conversations for me to understand, like, this isn't a divide. Because on day one, I was like, oh, why is there two sides to this? But by day one of me looking at it, and then like after like we talked, and then a few other things, like I was like, who is saying there's two sides? Like it took me like 48 hours to be like, what the fuck? Like, this is just innocent. Like, this is one group that's representing a wider group, and the wider group's getting like hurt for it. Like, they're just as innocent. You know what I mean? It's just like that one group that's like really
Yeah.
like taking over, and then I see how everyone's reacting to it, and that's really where I got sick. Was like I started seeing people react to false information, you know, like I had a buddy say he was walking in New York City and he watched a lady who was praying get held at gunpoint. Like a guy walked up behind her and said, "I'm going to kill you." And he was on his Instagram story and like filmed the whole thing. And I was like, "Oh my God." And it was just
This
because she
is
was
why we
like,
can't be giving these people platforms because people
yeah.
are using it. I swear, I'm seeing like people pulling down hostage posters is becoming a freaking trend. We need
Mhm.
to stop giving these people the time of day and the attention. For
Yeah.
real. Because people are now like, wow, look, I'm so cool. I'm part of the woke crowd. Look at me. Look what I'm doing. I'm on the right side of history. They can't even begin to fathom or understand the magnitude of what actually is happening and has happened. And these aren't just people on a screen.
Yeah.
These are real human beings. These are people our age.
Yeah.
These are these are people that went to a festival that are our age, that do the things that on the day that this was happening, I saw my friends in the States doing also. I
Yeah.
saw people at raves in the States the same day that these people were getting killed at a rave. These are things that
Yeah.
we do at our age. These are things that our friends do.
Mhm.
Imagine going to a rave, tripping on drugs, and all of a sudden, people come in and start killing you and raping you and kidnapping you.
Yeah. I
It's
agree.
insane. But it's so interesting to hear like an outsider's perspective because, you know, a lot of the people that I've been talking to lately are Jewish, especially because I'm in Israel. So it's kind of been like what my world has been.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to see like what an outsider's perspective on the entire situation is and how like the information that you're seeing online. And I think people are also scared to post their opinions because they don't want to deal with the hate.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair, like the reason I didn't like going online is because I see too much 50-50 no matter how much I want to, how much I mute people. Like, and it just like, I'm like, I don't want to see that. Like, it's just not even, there's no point in me even having those thoughts because it's just, like I said, it doesn't serve me. I'm tired, like, you know. So, but yeah, no, I think that's super beneficial. I'll probably watch this one back and definitely like release it today because I think it's so
Yeah.
prevalent. So we'll skip ahead
And
few
if
weeks and
anybody
drop
has
it.
questions, like reach out to me. I have conversations with people all the time that are on the other side. I think it's really important
Mm,
to have conversations and not be screaming at each other. And if you're open minded and you want to have a conversation, I'm open minded. I want to have a conversation. Let's
mm.
talk about it. And hopefully we can meet in the middle because I'm sure nobody on your channel, nobody on mine wants people dead and being tortured, you know?
Yeah,
So let's
no,
see if we can kind of find a common ground. And
yeah, I agree. And now, did you mention the website earlier? Were you just gonna send it to me and I'll put it in here? Or can people find it right now?
so I don't exactly know it off the top of my head. I think it's Israeli Supplies for Soldiers
Okay.
or something like that. I'll send it to you so that you can post it. But yeah, we really just we're fundraising as much as we can, and we're working on making a social media right now so that we'll actually be able to like post the information instead of just on our stories.
Hmm.
Um, it's so fun seeing all of these soldiers get their stuff and they're in their accents. They're always like, thank you,
Yeah.
Americans." Like they love it, and it it really keeps the morale up,
Yeah,
and it's nice.
yeah, it shows people are thinking about them, which I think is good because they're facing a force that's not giving any care in the world who they are. And so, yeah, no, I can only imagine. I know people can also DM you if you
Yeah,
guys want to donate. Definitely don't wait on the website.
my
And
Venmo is in my bio also. So if you want to just
perfect.
directly Venmo, you can do
Yeah.
that as well. And also, another really fun thing that we started doing
Hmm.
is putting notes into the bags saying that we're looking for bachelors because we've got a lot of girls that are looking for their husbands. And so it's so fun.
Hmm.
If you are in Israel, planning to come to Israel, we're open to seeing what's out there. Message me also. We're getting flooded with really hot guys that are looking for their wives. So hot
Interesting.
Israeli soldiers.
There you go. Plug in,
Amazing.
you're plugging everyone. Yeah. Good deal. Sounds good. Kim, I can't thank you enough for doing this.
Thanks for
I'm
your
gonna release it
time,
right
Jack.
now. Yeah, and we'll be in touch so I can make sure everything's still good over there.
Sounds
Yeah.
like a plan.
All right.
Sounds like a plan. Be in touch.
Everyone who joined, thank you guys. That was fun.